for you as a journalist covering that attack, did you have a conflict of interest as to whether to take a picture or help the person?
Well, as a journalist, of course, I had an obligation of covering the whole thing, covering anything that we were seeing, capturing everything that was taking place. And at the same time, as a human being, again, I was supposed to help people who who had been injured. Yeah, so those are things again which I had two tasks at that time, covering and at the same time rescuing.
Right.
Remember, our aim, our mission to go to Westgate was first to rescue people. That was actually what took us there, because then, remember, I was not in any newsroom, I was not in any media house, and I had been called by somebody who was stuck in Westgate to go and rescue her with other people. Therefore, our main mission was to rescue. And it happened that as journalists, again, we had our cameras. We were documenting everything that we were seeing that time also. Yeah.
And you had quite an interesting story of how you ended up at Westgate. What were you doing before you got that call to go help?
Before I got to the Westgate, or that time, that very day, we were going to cover a wedding somewhere in Kabete. When we received a distress call from somebody who was stuck in Westgate. We didn't know actually where that person was, and she told us, come and rescue us, because we've been held hostage by terrorists. Come and rescue us. If you don't come, we will not make it.
Right.
And remember that time again, I was taking my son. We were going to cover that wedding so that we could raise some money to take him to hospital then, because he had been diagnosed to have bone cancer, which later happened that he didn't have. And I had only 4 days to go, because the doctors had said that I take him to hospital to India within 4 days. And therefore, covering the wedding to us was very important, because it's through that we would get some money to top up the balance of the money that we had. Then here we receive a call, somebody saying, come and rescue us. We will not make it if you don't come. You see, I was in a dilemma, because I didn't know what to do. Here is my son, here is somebody who is held hostage by terrorists, and this person says, if you don't come, we will not make it. I had to inquire, to ask him, what do we do? He said, let's go and rescue the person. Let's forget about the wedding. Let's go and rescue that person.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so Geoffrey, that was you saying, let's go and rescue that person. Did you know exactly what was going on at Westgate before you said that?
Actually, I never knew what was happening in Westgate. So upon receiving the call, my dad told me that he's received a call. There are some robbers who had gone to Westgate. So I told him, because Westgate is on our route to where we're going to shoot the wedding, let's just pass by there, then we will see what was happening. Upon arrival, from the scene that we're seeing, it wasn't, in first sight, we thought it wasn't a robbery, because apparently there were some injured people who were running out of Westgate. That is when we noticed it wasn't just a mere robbery. Yeah.
All right. Now the pictures on your screen right now are some of the pictures that were taken by Joseph during the Westgate attack, and these are pictures that actually saw him win CNN awards, and that's quite commendable. Congratulations for that, Joseph. Now, one question I want to ask you is, many of us hear about terror after it happened, and we hear it on the news or see pictures afterwards, but you were there firsthand. You went to help. How would you describe the situation?
I should say it was not a good scene. The situation was bad, because remember, we found people who are dead. I mean, we found bodies which were lying scattered all over. And then there were people who arrived actually and who had been injured, they were there. So I don't know whether you've been in such a situation, and you should not wish to be in such a situation, whereby you see people are mixed. We have dead bodies, we have people who arrive, and all of them are mixed. They are crying for help. There you are, with your cameras. You see, it was not a good scene actually. And you also regret as to why you didn't have a knowledge of, doing a first aid, because that would have helped a lot. I didn't know, and to me, I think in journalism, I think even as we continue learning, I mean, about journalism, first aid should also be part of our learning. That's what I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Had I known that, I think would have helped so many people. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Now, let's speak to Shamim just a bit, because Shamim, a while back you were saying that you find it hard to forgive an international journalist who took pictures of you while you were holding the boy who died in your arms.
Actually, I wasn't holding him. He'd been taken off me and he'd been put on the side. I don't even know who the little boy was. But he was gone and he had died in my arms. And the journalist focused on the carnage. All we needed was somebody to say, help is coming, hang on.
Right. Right. Now, Joseph, were you able to strike that balance between being a journalist and reassuring the people that help is actually coming?
I was. Remember, our mission was to rescue those people who actually were inside there. In fact, our phone, that is the one that was being used by police officers as a communication gadget, because we were going to rescue people, and we were communicating with the people inside there using my phone. Therefore, we were doing all these things. In fact, it's only that I didn't have, like I said earlier on, I had two roles, covering and rescuing. If you may recall, that grill where people were locked in, I'm the one who opened that one. Yeah, and opening it meant that we wanted to rescue people inside there. And at the same time, we are the police officers here. So when they join me, then I would stop doing what I'm doing and take a picture. Then we continue. Because, by the way, those pictures we were taking that time, we were not taking them for publication. We were taking them because we didn't know the area, I mean the layout very well. We were actually using those pictures to study the area very well. Because the person who was stuck inside there had been there before. We didn't know actually. I've never been there before. Therefore, those pictures were helping us to study. We would ask her as you were entering, what did you see? Where you are locked in. Would you remember what you saw outside there? Then she would tell us. We would go through our pictures. Would see. She mentioned a carpet. We can see in this picture where is the carpet. Then we will follow that. So those are two roles we were playing with our cameras also.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, our response at Westgate was, well, I would say fairly fast, because first people thought it was a robbery that was taking place. But, let's talk about the Garissa University, for example, it took quite a long time for police to get there. And it was actually hard for civilians, people outside, to go in because they had no protection. Did you have the protection of the police? Were they armed, or did you just go in and help people?
Personally, I didn't have any protection. We didn't have a protection, you should say so. And, but that did not occur in our mind that we were not protected. Because our mission was to get in and rescue those people. So whether we had guns or not, we were ready to get in there. Yeah. So I can't tell exactly how we made it inside, but we were focused.
All
yeah.
right.
Yes.
Now, in these attacks, many times Al-Shabaab take pictures and post them on social media in a bid to glorify themselves. So in journalism, where do you draw the line between covering an event and showing people what happened and actually glorifying what the Al-Shabaab terrorists did?
You may recall what happened recently in Brussels. After the attack, during that attack, I'm sure there were people with their small cameras, with their phones, iPhones. They were there taking pictures. But we never saw a single picture of injured people. We never saw bloody pictures. We never saw those graphic images. We did not see that. And here in Kenya, what happens? Whenever we take pictures, even today, you see people actually uploading those kind of pictures, which to me that is very wrong. And we need to know actually that whenever we are doing that, especially in an event like that where people have been in a disaster such as that, we are actually glorifying these terrorists.
Right.
You know what they are looking for? That time they are looking at a platform where they can communicate to the world what they have done, and that platform is only provided by the media. That's why they look for such things. So as journalists, again, we should not do that. Instead, we should actually vet all the pictures that we have before we can show what is happening. Let us go through our images, because again we have a role as Kenyans. We have a role to play to the public, to show the public exactly what is happening without hiding. Now at the same time, we need to vet, to edit everything that we are showing the public. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
It's definitely a sensitive issue there. But what would you say are some of just the basic rules?
Yes.
Because this is a sensitive event. So what are some of the basic rules that journalists should follow while covering terror attacks?
One, protection. Protection is something very important. Safety is very important. Your safety is very important. As a journalist, your safety is very important. Secondly, you must know that you are communicating, whatever you're documenting there, you're doing that to show the world. Again, you must be very careful with what you are capturing. Know exactly what you are, you're showing people in the world. And also, you should also know the layout of where you're entering as a journalist. Because sometimes you may enter somewhere and then you find that you can't get out. You are locked in there. Again, you must study all those things. Another thing, again, you must know that we don't have a story that is worth your life. That's very important. Again, we know that whatever we are doing, if it's going to risk our lives, for example, if I'm going to die because of this, I would rather not do it. We don't have a story that's worth our lives. We don't have one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now, Geoff, you were quite selfless at the time because you've been diagnosed with a certain type of cancer. You had 4 days to travel to India. And so covering the wedding that you were going to would have helped you get the money to go to India. But you made the call to, go with your dad to Westgate. What made you come up with that decision?
First of all, I thought it will be very selfish of us not to go and help someone who was in need of our help. Second, you never know who was there. It might be your family, your friend, and at the end of it all, you'll have felt guilty if someone who was there, who needed your help, would have perished, and you could have helped them. Yeah.
Now, did you help take some of these pictures? Do you want to be a journalist yourself?
Actually, I helped taking some of the pictures.
You took many actually, not some. So
yeah, I
did.
took many pictures, and being a journalist, I've encountered many situations where I've learned journalism, and I'll still continue pursuing journalism as a career. Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to the Garissa University College. And these students, many of them, over 600 of them, were relocated and taken to Moi University to continue with their education. But, and I'd like to speak to you about this, Shamim, and we were talking about it earlier. For them to be able to move on, of course, it was a good idea for them to move from the school where the attack actually happened. But radicalization is still a big key factor in terrorism in the country. And how would you say the country should go about curbing radicalization of these young people?
I think for starters, we need to get away with these horrible words. We're feeding this word. And when we start talking about radicalization, I think every time we say it, we feed that word a little bit more. I think we need to stop using that word. These are just people with bad interest, but we need to shoulder and support the youth in our communities. Here's a standing example. He took the chance to make the difference in somebody else's life, in somebody else's life that he didn't even know, maybe.
Right.
So that's our future. And I'd say the same thing. No war is worth it. There are only losers. There are no winners.
Right. All right. Joseph, what would you say about that? But before we move on, those are live pictures from the Garissa University Marathon that is taking place to commemorate the first anniversary of that attack in April 2nd, 2015 that saw the loss of 147 lives and several others injured. The marathon is just about to take place, and about 1,000 people will be taking place in that marathon, which is currently ongoing, as information we're getting from there. Now, let's move on with our conversation. Joseph, radicalization, as Shamim says, is a big word, and we're feeding into this word.
Yeah.
But in many of the terror attacks that we've had in Kenya, many of the perpetrators are very young people. The Westgate attackers themselves were very young people.
Yeah.
So, you know, how should we go about this, the radicalization that Shamim says we should stop using?
Well, radicalization. What we should do, first of all, let's talk of of parents. Because young people, again, are the target of the criminals and the terrorists. They actually recruit them every day. And we should say, those are criminals. At the end of the day, those are criminals. We should say that our parents, wherever they are, they should be taken, they should actually be monitored in movement of their children, whatever they do. Because many a times you find these people are there, they are idle at home. You find sometimes they have money, you don't know where they're getting this money from. They have engaged themselves in other activities. We need to know exactly what they're doing. We monitor them every day, and in case you discover there is something that leaves a lot to be desired in a child, actually inform the authority. Yeah, I should say so.
All right.
Yes.
And Geoffrey, if I can come to you, having covered that attack, you were not a victim per se, but do you have any trauma following that attack?
Thank God I don't have any traumas following that attack. I know it's a big issue where those who are involved, they are traumatized. Till to date, there are some who are still traumatized about that. I'd say unfortunate that I don't have any traumas right now.
Right. What about you, Joseph?
Me too, I should say so. However, I wish to say something about that, especially as journalists, again, as being a journalist. And this goes to our media houses in this country. One, they should actually have allocation whereby journalists are taken for counseling after covering such things. We don't have that here in Kenya. If you cover any tragedy, any tragedy in this country, and you go back to the newsroom, nobody bothers to know what you are going through.
As long as you gave the story.
Yeah, as long as the story is there, nobody cares. And in fact, communication is another thing about traumatization and communication. When people keep on communicating to you, they're actually helping you. They are counseling you in a way. But they don't do that. Our bosses, that's what they are. Even our colleagues, nobody cares to know what you went through or maybe what you're going through after covering such an incident. Nobody cares.
Right.
So we should have that facility in our media houses. Yeah.
Now, that is just for you as a journalist covering that event. Then how much more support would we need for a victim of a terror attack? And Shamim, that is something that we'd like you to address just to the government and to Kenyans at large. What should we do to people or for people who've been victims of terror attacks?
I think I was very lucky. I work for an organization, I work for East FM as a radio presenter, and that was my healing. I came into the team after Westgate. I can't say they mollycoddled me, but they never took me as a victim. We'd all gone through it. Of course, my injuries were not the prettiest. But I think we need to heal. Healing comes from forgiveness. Healing comes from knowing somebody else out there cares for you. So that's what I would say. We need to be a little bit more gentle with each other. I remember going through the airport a couple of weeks back, and unfortunately, if you scan my arm very hard, because of the metal that's still there, it hurts. But I always travel with a short sleeve shirt so that I can say to them, just when you go over my arm, you can a little bit gentle. And the lady there looked at me, and I was shocked. She actually had tears in her eyes. She felt my pain. I felt her pain. I gave her a hug and I said, it's fine, you know. Don't feel sorry for us. Be proud of us. That's what I say. Be proud. To heal, we do need support.
Right.
Whether it's financial, whether it's just knowing that you can go into a building and be safe. I still cannot go into a mall and not look for the safest route out. My eyes automatically will look for an exit route. And I think that's what the healing comes from there. But also, we need to incorporate all the survivors. And it's not just violence that goes on with terrorism, it's violence that we experience on a daily basis. You know, I'd love to go and give all the Matatu drivers a hug. Because I think if they got a hug, maybe they'd be a nicer people. And a little more gentle. So we need to be gentle with ourselves so we can share that with somebody else.
Right. Now, do you think there's been more focus on people who lost their lives than on the survivors?
You know, it's human nature. It's human nature to count the ones that left. But we forget the ones who are here. I'm amongst the lucky ones who's not been forgotten. And there are a few more who I can say. But there's a huge number who made it through those days. Who all they need is a gentle word, some encouragement. Some of them might have disabilities. I've come off the crutch, but unfortunately even today, if I've walked too much, I still will use a crutch. Just to know that, don't feel sorry for me.
Right.
Don't pity me. I don't need your pity. I need your support. And there are thousands of us who could do with it.
Right. Now, you know, many Kenyans focus on, when it comes to fighting terror, we all say the government should do this, the government should do that. But the government can't do this alone. You took the initiative to help. You took the initiative to help during Westgate. And Shamim, you're taking the initiative to help survivors of the attack itself. And during the attack, the 4-day siege, Kenyans came out in large numbers, bringing food and water to the police officers who were there, just coming out to show unity. And in the Garissa University College attack, the 1-year anniversary today, we're seeing over 3,000 Kenyans going there to show their solidarity. So, Joseph, what would you say that we as Kenyans, as individual citizens, can do in combating terror?
Well, when people, especially when people actually come in large numbers and show their solidarity, unity and all that, it's a good thing. But that should not be a one-day event. We should always be, it should be a continuous thing altogether. We've seen so many people, so many survivors, who probably that time, during that time when things were happening, during that incident, we talked about them. Later in life, we forget about them. And some of them, they cannot be, their lives have changed completely because of that event, because of the incident. We've forgotten about them. I think there should be something that we should be having those people in our minds every day. It's a continuous thing altogether. And whenever we see, like for example, I have just recalled something. Remember the incident that occurred at Mukuru, where people, there was that fire explosion that took place, and so many people died. Then we had survivors. Nobody talks of those survivors today, and some of them, they cannot actually raise money to go. To keep going to hospital and all that. They don't do that. So they are just languishing in poverty, suffering there, and nobody thinks about them. I think we should do something. As a country, we should always have those people in mind. Always. Right. Not just a one-day event. Yeah. Right. It's like the people we normally see visiting street boys just one day, and then after that, they don't see them. We don't see them anywhere again. We should have these people in our every day. We see them, we help them. We come up with solutions that can change their lives. Right. Yes.
Now, the pictures you two took during the attack were supposed to help you find your way around the mall, but somehow they ended up winning an award. How did that happen?
Well, if you may recall, our pictures were not published the same day. Actually, our pictures were published, was it either a day, 2 days later? That's when we actually released our pictures.
Right.
Why? Because, like I told you earlier on, is that our mission was not to take pictures for publication. Our mission was to rescue people. That's why we went there. And remember, I was not in any newsroom. Of course, you know, when you go to a newsroom and say that I have pictures from that place, they will tell you, oh, we had our own people there. So I didn't want to encounter that. I said my mission was to rescue people, and I've done that. Only that somebody, a friend of mine, came across the pictures and asked me, what are you doing with these pictures? She said, can I have a look at the pictures? Because again, I was annoyed with the person who had called me to the Westgate. Later on, after we came out from that place, I got annoyed with that person. Because for calling me to go and rescue, I mean, encounter all those things, whatever I encountered, I'm not actually practicing my journalism anymore. And this person has called me there. I've come up with all these kind of pictures, and I've done all these things. Why was she calling me? So I was going to, again, to react on that. But now the friend of mine said, before you react on that, can we go through the pictures that you captured in Westgate? That's when this person said, do you know what? Don't talk about the person. Let's go through this picture. These pictures have a story to tell. That's when I allowed her to use those pictures. I mean, to send them somewhere. She called somebody in UK who actually, no, she wrote a mail to a friend in UK who responded hours later. You see? And it was on Sunday, I remember very well, it was on Sunday night, and she called me, said, now you wake up, go back to the Westgate, there's a person, somebody is waiting for you there with the pictures that you took. When I went there, when those saw those pictures and the clips, these people actually stopped everything and said, now these are the pictures we are going to show, I mean, to air right now. That's how they do it. Now that's how the world came to know about my pictures.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how you won an award.
Yeah, that's how again we won the award.
Right.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So we're speaking to Joseph Mathenge and Geoff Kihato, who covered the Westgate terror attack, as well as Shamim Alu, who was a survivor of the Westgate attack. This is a conversation of counter-terrorism as the country marks 1 year anniversary of the Garissa University attack in 2015, April 2nd. Feel free to call in the numbers on your screens and speak to us, ask us questions, as well as messages of reassurance as the country marks this 1 year of remembrance of the 148 lives that were lost. Now, coming back to this conversation, we have been asked, especially in the past 2 months, to be more vigilant by the police because there may be pending terror attacks. We've been asked to be on the lookout for any unattended bags that may be around. But Shamim, you were a frequent, visitor at the Westgate Mall.
No.
No, you were not.
No, something about that place scared me.
All right. So you yourself had never gone to the Westgate Mall before. But as Kenyans,
Yes.
we always ask to be vigilant. But how vigilant can we really be? Because you didn't notice anything out of the ordinary at Westgate, right? So how can we really be vigilant?
There's something maybe I can say about that. One, terrorists and even other criminals, armed robbers, people who are armed, those are, with ill motive, they take advantage of you and I who are not armed. You see, if we were armed, if government of Kenya can allow people with good conduct to be armed, I'm sure crime rate will go down. That's what I believe in. Go to US today. People where they live, in their houses, those houses are not fenced. They don't have gates like we do here in Kenya. But nobody will dare to enter your house in US. Why? Because he or she doesn't know what you have inside there. Even here in Kenya, if we were armed, of course, if people were armed, say the people with good conduct, we armed those people, even for example, Garissa attack. If guards were armed, lecturers were armed, I don't think we would have encountered what we encountered there.
Right.
Same with Westgate. And many other incidents here around here. The government of Kenya should actually look at that. Look at, for example, our traffic police officers. Are they armed? They are not.
No.
The other day I saw another clip, being circulated in the social media, where a traffic police officer is being attacked by a motorist. And this person, because he's not armed, he's just there, and the world, I mean, the people around, members of public cannot help. You see? If this man was, if the officer was armed, do you think he would have encountered that? No.
So that is something you're suggesting the Kenyan government should consider.
Yeah, and that can be a debate actually. It can be we can debate on that actually. I think it's important.
Right.
The crime rate will go down. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that's a good idea, Joff?
Actually, I'd say that's not a bad idea, but at the same time, it's still debatable because at times you never know who's going to use it for the greater good. Yeah.
Right. Okay, now, as young people, most of the radicalization happening among young people, can you really tell, you know, whether there are changes in a colleague or a friend of yours, or whether they're being radicalized? How can you keep an eye on a fellow young person?
Actually, you can keep an eye on a fellow young person, maybe if it's your friend. At times you'll find them starting to separate themselves. Maybe you can see a change in behaviors. For example, if someone is secluded and is joining other gangs or people who are not good morally.
Right.
So I think that you can actually get to know someone who is not, who can be
radicalized, right?
Yeah.
And you know, talking about response and being accountable to the perpetrators of terror, when the Westgate terror attack happened, there were 4 attackers, and this as far as the public knows. And there was a lot of speculation as to whether those attackers had been apprehended or whether they'd been killed, according to reports. Some survivors are reported saying that they saw one of the attackers change into civilian clothes and be rescued with some of the survivors. So when it comes to accounting for this, do you think that enough is being done by both the government and us as civilians to ensure that these people are taken to book?
It's hard to say. I'm a non-violent person. I mean, I would say, is violence the answer?
Right.
An eye for an eye will leave the world a blind place. So I bet even if they came out and they lived, I bet they don't sleep well. I sleep well. I bet they don't sleep well.
Right. Okay. But that's debatable, Shamin, because let me take you to an incident where a Somali-based journalist was arrested for having 5 of his colleagues killed by Al-Shabaab because he was working for the Al-Shabaab himself, and he was sentenced to death. But when he was sentenced to death, what he said is, even after my killings, let's see whether the killings by Al-Shabaab would stop. So these are people who are willing to die. So they may be sleeping very well at night because they feel that their cause is right.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think, and this comes not only because of the person I am after Westgate, but even before, I used to always say, does violence breed violence? I think it does. And I don't think to the survivors of every single act of violence, I think, you know what? You came out on the other side, a better human being, a person with a mission. Here's a young man who made the choice to go into Westgate. Maybe his dad might have twisted his arm a little bit, but he made the choice to go in there. And I promise you, I bet you're a much better person and a much happier person than you were on the 20th of September 2013.
Right. Okay, do feel free to call in on Weekend Express and speak to us. Do give us your suggestions of how you think the country should combat terrorism and how you think incidents of terror should be handled in the country. But I'd also like to speak, Geoffrey, about an incident where KTN covered a story a while back where we put a black bag in town, just in the middle of the street, and the police were called and informed that a black bag has been seen lying on the street since, for the better part of the morning. And our KTN crew camped there for quite a while. Several hours later, the police had not shown up yet. So as much as we as citizens remain vigilant and be on the lookout, How can we trust the police who are being informed of these things and don't take action? Do you think that the police service needs to be more vigilant themselves?
Sure, it needs to be more vigilant because if you go to Western countries, you call you call the police, within 5 minutes they will be there. Within 5 minutes they will be there. Here in Kenya, how many times have we seen people, even in our estates, something has happened, we call police officers, they come hours later, something should be done actually. And that's about, I mean, they should be motivated rather, though that's not, I don't know whether it's the correct word to use. They should actually be encouraged to do their job accordingly.
Right.
Yeah, and before the police officers arrive, this now I'm taking you back to what I said earlier on. Why we should be armed? Okay, I'm not the one. I'm not saying that I should be armed. Why people in our, I mean, members of public among ourselves, there should be people who are armed also. You know, remember the community policing. That should be a very important thing actually. Before the arrival of police officers, because police officers are not everywhere. They are we outnumber them. We should be having people among ourselves. Each one of us should play a role as a community police, or I mean, policy member. We should play that role. Every one of us should do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Shamim, you've changed your Twitter handle to Garissa Hills.
Yes.
1 year anniversary. It's been 3 years since the Westgate attack. 3 years, and you're here today. So, do you think it will be enough? I mean, it will be okay to say that Garissa has healed just 1 year later, or is it just in the beginning processes?
It's very much in the beginning. I don't think you're ever going to heal. In the essence that the scars will remain, some of the pain will remain, the trauma will remain. If anybody says to me, have you healed? No, I have moved on. There are incidences which come back. There are moments which are very frightening still. But you become a better person and never lose the focus of why you survived.
Right, right. You know, there's a quote that says the difference between a strong person and a weak person is not that the strong person doesn't break, it's just that staying broken is not an option for them.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, your suggestion would be to focus on the things that matter most to you. But there are people, especially in the Garissa University attack, one person in specific was still in hospital 1 year later. So it would be hard for that person to forgive the attackers. How would you sort of advise these people to forgive? Because forgiveness is
Part of the
the
healing.
starting point.
I think you have to start looking at, number one, you're alive. Yes, you might be in a very bad position. I used to be a skydiver. I don't think I could ever do that again.
Right.
What has changed in my life? Simple. I've brought in focus. Maybe skydiving wasn't important in my life. Maybe the fact that I could run wasn't important. Maybe the fact I needed to use a crutch and slow down in my own life in many aspects and bring that healing about. To this person, I'd say pick up a diary and a pen and start writing. Because through your experiences, maybe you'll empower somebody else who might be going through, hopefully we don't have any more of this terrible incidences, but violence in a different form. And this person's story will help that person heal.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Okay. And the thing with such attacks is that it does not only affect the victims, it also affects the victims' families and the victims' friends. Many of the parents of the students who died in Garissa are still asking questions. Many of them buried their hopes along with their children. And when we were speaking earlier, you mentioned that your father is actually going through some kind of stress after seeing pictures of you during that attack.
Well, I think for my father, it was, he came into the hospital to see me day 2 because he lives in Malindi. And by then he had seen all the pictures of what the violence had happened. The hospital, MP Shah, was fantastic. I'd asked them, I requested to them, please do not give my father the whole story. He can't see what's happening. Just give him the outline that, okay, she's made it. That's the important. Do not tell him everything.
Right.
But we'd lost my mother, in the same year. So my dad was very, very fragile.
Right.
I think the combination of seeing me, seeing the photographs, and then I remember him talking to people, people who'd lost children there. I think for my father it was also guilt, and that he didn't take away my pain.
Right.
That is what parents do. They take away the child's pain. And I think he felt responsible for not being able to take away that pain. So to the parents of the people we've lost and the children we've lost, yes, that's a generation we've buried. And that's where other children need to come in and support the parents. I call ourselves now the family united in pain. I don't know whose blood I have. I had my family's blood, my mother's and my father's, but today I have blood in my body that's been given by numerous other people. They're part of my family. They're part of me now, and I'm part of them.
Right.
So why can't we do the same for the families who lost their children and extend our hands out to them and say, you know what, you lost a child, but now you've gained a family. We have to be there for each other.
Okay. Now, Joff and Joseph, you were there, not as victims, but you saw firsthand what the victims went through. Do you think these cars would heal? Do you think that the country can heal from such attacks that take place?
Yeah, I think it can. Just like what Shamina said, forgiving, forgiveness is something very important. You forgive. By forgiving, it means you're healing yourself. You forgive. Okay, people say you forgive and forget. You cannot forget, but you can forgive.
Right.
That forgiveness now takes charge of everything. Yeah. So even if you're meant to do something else in order to, or maybe to revenge, you would do that because forgiveness is actually controlling you. It has taken part of you. And remember, you also believe in supernatural power. And that supernatural power takes charge, then you need to do that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take one caller. I understand Solomon from Nairobi is calling in. Solomon, good morning. What's your question this morning?
Good morning to you. I've been following your discussion, and I find it very interesting. And we have to be thankful to people like the gentleman that took his time to go and get these pictures so that all of us can be able to know what is going on. My question is, as we do this, as the journalists get on site and they take photographs and this gets all to the public, and as we know, terrorists' aim is to frighten people, to make them feel insecure so that they can pressurize their governments to be able to take action that is pro-terrorism. What do the journalists do? What steps do they take to strike the balance between their professional duty of getting message to the press, to the public, as well as their civic duty of ensuring that this does not champion the cause of the terrorists?
All right. So he's asking what journalists can strike a balance in these attacks. Joseph?
I just gave an example of what happened in Brussels. Few days later, the very day when the attack was taking place, we never saw those pictures. We only saw a few things, but we did not see those graphic pictures. We did not see that. And I said earlier on, terrorists look for a platform to communicate, rather to pass a message to the world of what they are doing. And that platform can only be found to journalists. Journalists are the ones who provide that platform. By airing those kind of pictures, those graphic pictures, we are actually helping them. We shouldn't do that. Instead, we don't hide information. We cannot say that something has not happened when for sure it has happened. We can tell the people, this is something has happened here, and we'll be coming back to you. We don't show them all those graphic pictures, because that way we are now, taking part with the terrorists. But if we hide those pictures, and then we tell the people that the situation is being controlled by a security authority, then that's something different. We have two roles. We have a role of communicating, informing the public, and at the same time, we have a role of rescuing. Yeah.
All right. So that is your duty. And Geoff, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add, also in journalism, we have ethics in journalism. There's what we call responsibility of care. You have to take precaution of what you are telling the world what's really happening there. At the same time, you're supposed not to frighten people. You have to keep people calm, but still informing them of what is happening. So that line where you have to know what is right for people and what is not right for them.
Right.
Something to add on that. We journalists, sometimes we can actually add a number of victims by showing more of those kind of pictures. You know, a victim is not only the person who has been injured down there. Even the person who is covering, a journalist can also become another victim, victim number 2. Victim number 3 can be the viewer, the person who is actually viewing what we are showing. So we should also learn how to reduce that by controlling the kind of images we are showing. That way we are, saving the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that is your duty as a journalist to, in a bid not to glorify the terrorists.
Yeah, sure.
But Shamim, you're a journalist yourself. And you sort of drew that line between journalism, professionalism, and humanity, because all you wanted from that international journalist is some reassurance that help was coming.
I think he was of the thought that the old school of journalism used to be, if it bleeds, it leads. Today, we've bled enough. We don't need to bleed anymore. Now we're in a process where, like my program, I have a show on East FM on Sundays. I refuse to talk about anything bad. Even no matter how bad it is, something good will come out of it.
Right.
That's where we are. And I think as media, it's our responsibility. We have the most fantastic jobs in the world to be media. Thousands of people watch us, hear us. It's our responsibility to take our good messages there. And even out of bad, something good can come out, I believe.
Right. But out of just journalists alone should not do that. But we have mobile phones. Every single person has a mobile phone. And every single person has a mobile phone that has a camera. And many a times, as much as journalists try not to post these pictures online, they will already have been posted by the next person. So how can we stop that?
Again, I mentioned earlier on, again, I'm using Brussels as an example here. And even Paris, what happened? There are people there who had cameras, they had their iPhones, they had all the gadgets. Those maybe they were capturing all those things. We never saw any of those images anywhere. I remember those are not journalists. If they wanted to maybe to upload those images to their, the social media, they would have done that. Here, we are saying in Kenya, we now to the members of public, they should also be responsible. Not everything that you capture should be uploaded the social media. You should not do that. We shouldn't do that actually. We've seen that. I've seen somebody a lady who took a picture of somebody, a dead body. Somebody was hit by a car and it was bad. And then this lady took that image and uploaded it in the social media. I happened to be a friend in the Facebook. I told her, no, you don't do that. You should actually remove that picture because assume that you are the one, and the person who has been hit by the car is your uncle, probably your father or your brother. Assume that you are seeing it on the social media.
For the first time.
Yes, for the first time.
Right.
How would you take it? So be responsible. It has happened many times in our social media, such things being uploaded and being circulated all over. We should actually, we need to be responsible.
Okay, Geoffrey, as we wind up very quickly.
Okay, also I'd like to add on that issue. With the rise of digital age, earlier on we didn't have digital laws. Right now we have these digital laws that were raised up. People who are sharing such images can be traced back and they can be prosecuted. I think that will stop what is happening. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio this morning. We have been speaking to Joseph Madenge, Jof Kihato, as well as Shamim Alu, who is a survivor of the Westgate attack of 2013. Joseph and Jof covered that event and actually won a CNN award on account of the pictures that they took. Of course, this is a conversation in remembrance of the Garissa University attack that took place 1 year ago. 147 people lost their lives, and the university is today holding a marathon to commemorate that attack. Our KTN crew is at the Garissa University and will be bringing us hourly updates of the events there. That brings us to the end of the Weekend Express. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele. Do have a good morning.